Welcome in to Rover Sports, and I am really pleased to be joined by a great friend and a guy that is really carving out quite a following on YouTube. It's Chris the Entertainer. He is the Giants guy. It's great to have you in, man.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure, man. Ever since I started YouTube, I always say it. You're one of the first guys I ever worked with, one of the guys I respect this channel. Always love talking to you, Spence. You know that. Diehard Giants fan from Philadelphia. What's better than that? So what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, and we're just kind of like it's so cool because whatever happens on your journey, like we're the OGs that, started it off, I guess.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I say it all, you, JC, probably the two first guys. You're the first two guys I ever met off YouTube.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, I love working with you whenever I can. I think you definitely bring some hot takes, but you definitely always tell people your opinion, and you're not scared to share it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and hopefully I could stay that way. So today's exercise is going to be – I hope that this is a fun exercise. I'm actually pulling up the games right now. I'll try to minimize this. So I'm pulling up the games, and since I have you here, I want to go back and let's just try to remember some of the reasons why the Giants lost these games, right? So I'm going to skip around here. So we had the Bucs win. We beat the Redskins. You're sitting 2-2, and Shermer's pretty safe at this point. Daniel Jones is rolling. Then the Vikings and Patriots happen. Talk about that Vikings and Patriots game and where you were sitting at 2-4 at that point in the season.
Yeah, like you said, I think Shermer makes the desperate move week 3 because he knows he's ready to lose his job. Because the defense looks like it's not going anywhere fast, and he probably says, let me get the rookie quarterback in there. He'll save my job. I'll have the built-in excuse. Rookie quarterback wasn't ready. Then Daniel Jones performs better than initially anticipated. Obviously we get a little luck there with that Bucs game with the missed field goal at the end, whatever it was. But
right.
we eke out a win there with the missed 30-something yard field goal. Then the Redskins are all banged up. The Redskins could be 16-0. We're going to find a way to beat them. But
they hate Eli. It's so funny. Like they just can't stand him, man. He's their kryptonite. We are their kryptonite. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but we get the W there, and then like you said, we go into that Minnesota game. I think they were 2-2 as well, if I'm not mistaken, and they were kind of playing not so well, even though we knew in the back of our heads, rookie quarterback. This is a much better team in terms of talent. They have a very strong 53-man roster.
That's right.
Yeah, Cousins was coming in with some drama with Diggs. I remember Diggs was going to the press and everything else, and they just absolutely walloped us that game. That was that they were just a much better team. I knew going in that was going to be a tough game to win. And then we play the Patriots on 3 days rest on Thursday night football. And you knew that was a recipe for disaster. All of our weapons were out. Barkley was out for that game. Ingram out for that game. Tate out for that game. We had Shepard. And we had I think we had Tate. Maybe Tate was back. Yeah, Tate was back for that game. We had Tate and we had Slate, and everybody else was out. And windy conditions. You had like 35-mile-an-hour winds. And the Giants defense actually played pretty well that game, if you remember correctly, for the first 3 quarters.
I think we had a blocked punt, and the first half, like we were sitting there, and it might have been a tie at the half, and then the fourth quarter kind of got away from us. A lot of people were very pleased with the effort of the team. Yeah. I was one of those people, though, that was watching that game, and it was like the Patriots are playing sloppy. We literally have no chance to win this game. And I still wasn't really impressed or feeling great. But I know some in the fan base were feeling decent about our effort in New England at the time.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant to, like you said, to give them like a great praise because, like I said, the conditions were so poor. That I think that the Patriots offense got off to a slow start due in large part to that. The Giants defense I still wasn't bought into. They played a little bit better down the stretch. I guess when they learned the system, they adjusted a little bit. But I thought that was a little bit of a fluke that they were keeping it as close as they were. Jones had that really nice throw to Tate in that game for the long touchdown. But outside of that, I mean, we knew going in, that was going to be a tough game to win. And we actually kept it a little bit closer than I thought we were going to, even though the final score, I think they beat us by like 21. But it was much closer than what the final score indicated. I think we had the ball down by 7, I think, with like 8 or 9 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. And maybe Jones fumbled. I don't remember. But we were pretty close in that game up until the last 8 or 9 minutes.
These next 2 games is when I knew that this is when I really just soured on Pat Shermer completely as a coach. 10 games rest. We play the Cardinals. And this is a testament to terrible football teams, and this is what I kind of want to hit on during this video. They just jump on us from the gate, from the early going. I mean, what's the kid's name? Actually, it's not even Kenyon Drake. It's Chase Edmonds. He looked like Marshall Faulk on our defense, man. I mean, I remember he was a fantasy player. It was a wet game, and they just jumped on us 17-0. And that's when I knew, like, holy crap, this is just – we're just so inconsistent. We're just such, like, a terrible football team. Like it's Cliff Kingsbury coming into New York. This should be a game that you're really competing, really no excuse. And even though the Giants came back, it's just too many explosive plays. And then I'm going to loop in with this question, the Detroit game. I actually have a lot of thoughts about Detroit, but talk about Arizona and, like, just that game right there.
Yeah, Arizona coming in. I remember doing a game preview on that game. I said, this is a game we have to win. If we not, I wasn't even thinking contending for the playoffs, but if we're trying to grow as a team, this is a game you got to win. You got a team traveling 3,000 miles across the country. You've got a rookie quarterback with Kyler Murray. Cliff Kingsbury, rookie coach. There was no excuses not to win that game. Now, like you said, I definitely remember the rainy conditions. Murray didn't even throw, I think, for more than 130 yards in that game, if I'm not mistaken. They were not throwing the ball over us. It was the running back, and it was the backup running back at that. And like you said, we made a valiant effort at the end to come back, but that was just such a sloppy game. It left me so depressed because there was no flow. And again, if I remember correctly, I think there were issues with the timeouts at the end of that game with Pat Shermer. But that was one of Jones's worst performances of the year. Rainy conditions seem to have struggled with that this year. There was I think the Eagle game was rainy at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he did make a nice throw, like in the middle of the field over a couple of linebackers for a touchdown.
To the tight end. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. Who was that Simonson on that play?
It might have been, or Ellison.
Or Ellison. It was Ellison. You're right. It was Ellison. Yes. Yes.
All right. I want you to compare these two games now because I think they're similar to compare. Lions game away, we lose 31-26, and the Bears game 19-14.
I remember in the Lions game, the one guy that stood out to me on a positive note, if I remember correctly, I thought Baker, I think that game played fairly well. DeAndre Baker, I thought that was one of his good games, if I remember correctly. But he got cooked in several games last year. I remember thinking that after the game that he played decent. But, yeah, I mean, it was I'm trying to remember that game.
Our boy Slayton was amazing in the Lions game.
Slayton had a big game against
Jones threw for 4 touchdowns in the Lions game.
Right. So that was that was the strong offensive performance game from Jones. I mean, the Lions defense was banged up last year, but yes, that was I guess his most impressive game to date. Most people point to Tampa, but I guess that was kind of his bounce back game where you're like, okay, now I'm confident with this kid again. But obviously the defense didn't show up like every week.
So the thing is that I'm going to get to is that the reason I think really the Giants lost all those games last year was because even in the Lions game, like we're playing decent, we're making some heavy effort plays, and then suddenly Stafford will hit a 40-yard bomb. They'll call a flea flicker bomb touchdown. The Giants, they just always got behind in the game, and they never sped up the pace. They never made an effort to play from ahead. They were always content with Shermer playing from behind. So a perfect example, that Lions game, they're always down 7, and there's no urgency to hit a big play. And the secondary, when you have a secondary that's that awful with James Betcher, the Giants are like playing well, like maybe they're stuffing the run, they're showing great effort, but then when you get a 40-yard bomb on you, when you give up those explosive plays, you just can't win football games. The ultimate example, Chris, is that Bears game. Okay, because we played a really clean first half. If you remember that Bears game, that was after the bye. I was dying for a win at that point. I don't care if it was Shermer coaching. I don't care if it was Darth Vader. I don't care what mofo was coaching the Giants. I was like, I haven't experienced a win in so long. Like, I was jacked for that Bears game. We played like a perfect first half. The Bears guy dropped some touchdowns. Third quarter, the whole thing went to crap. Jones fumbled for a touchdown. Trubisky looked like we could make Trubisky look like a Montana. And that's really when it's just the defense last year was just so utterly awful. And Shermer just had this inability. He had a lack of urgency completely when he coached a game, and that's why I was really offended. The Cowboys game was very winnable. They played like crap, and there were so many chances. It's just there were chances to win these games. We had no urgency. We never played from ahead last year.
It's the same thing the year before. I mean, you go back and look at the year before, there was 4 games, those last 8 games we could have won, should have won. And yeah, you're right.
The Colts, maybe, yeah.
The Colts, the Cowboys game, last game of the year, we should have won. The Eagles game, we should have won. We had a 17-3 lead at the half, I think it was.
Right.
The Panthers game with the 63-yard field goal. So it was the same. It was the same thing, man. This year, there's no, like you said, no urgency. And there was no identity. The defense, it could have been 3rd and 48, and I knew that the opposing offense was going to pick it up. It was horrible. Watching.
You're right. You couldn't get a stop. You couldn't get off the damn field. 3rd and 13, Amari Cooper. The Packers game, wide open touchdown in the back of an end zone with 3 guys near the receiver.
It was not. The defense last year was definitely our Achilles heel. Make no mistake about that. The offense wasn't great, but the defense definitely needs to be improved.
I just don't think you can win games when really you're giving up that many explosive plays.
No, of course not. You can't unless you're a ball control offense and you're chewing up the clock. Maybe you could hide that defense a little bit, but yeah, we're not winning with a defense like that. Now the question, I think this year becomes, obviously part of it is a personnel problem. There's no doubt about it. You know, they're young, they're inexperienced. But the other question is how much of it had to do with the coaching staff? How much of it had to do with James Betcher? How much of it had to do with Shermer? With the other coaches on the New York Giants coaching staff? And how much will this new coaching staff improve? That's a major question, regardless of what we do in the draft.
That's exactly right, because there are players like I watched DeAndre Baker at Georgia. He was a dominant football player. He was an alpha at that position, and he looked like a fish out of water last year. If Baker turns out to just – now, the great thing is we do have the change of coaching staff. You have Patrick Graham. Joe Judge seems to use these pieces. So if these guys continue to suck, as much as I've loved Dave Gettleman, unfortunately then I have to be objective and say that these guys all these guys were not gems. They were failures. You know what I mean? And that is what is exciting, because a lot of why I'm still holding out hope is I'm placing the blame on James Betcher. That DeAndre Baker was confused. That Sam Beal was hurt. You have Beal and Ballantyne was a good kick returner. Lorenzo Carter does have athletic ability, even though he's always been an inconsistent football player. Peppers. So Leonard Williams has played decently in this league before. So I am excited to see like how the defense can do with a new staff.
You hit the nail on the head with Gettleman. I'm with you, man. I try to defend Gettleman whenever I can. There's times where I can't. You brought up Leonard Williams. I cannot defend him for that. But I do try to defend Dave Gettleman because I do like the balls that he has, how he trades Beckham and everything else. But you're right. This year is put up or shut up for Dave Gettleman. You're coming off a year where you won 4 games. You weren't much better the year before that. You're consistently picking the top 5 or 6 picks of the draft. Cannot go on. Especially in New York. They're not going to put up with it. And I always say it all the time, Gettleman inherited a horrible situation, right? Jerry Reese left this team with no cap space. You had a 37-year-old quarterback, whatever Eli Manning was, that I think was forced on him by ownership, even though I love Eli Manning. Eli Manning's my favorite guy ever. But best thing for Eli, probably in 2017, would have been to move on to another team that had a foundation set for him to succeed. The timeline never matched up. Because the Giants were 2 or 3 years away. Eli was going to be 40 by the time that happened. So I think Gettleman was set up for failure from the start. I honestly feel that. I thought he was put in a very bad situation. Now, I can't defend everything the guy does. He does make a lot of head-scratching moves. And this will be the year where he may even be unfairly judged this year, because when you look at the Giants' schedule this year, the Giants could become a much better football team this year and still only win 6 games because their schedule is loaded.
Well, that's and the thing is with this season that is so interesting is that I just want to see tangible improvement. And the thing about Joe Judge is one thing I love about Judge and why he isn't like McAdoo and Shermer is he's not going to go quietly into the night. Like I felt like last year when I was at the game that I cared more about the Giants winning and losing than Pat Shermer on the sidelines. Like I really felt that, and you probably felt that as a fan too. But now that Joe Judge is there, I feel that Joe Judge is going to care so deeply. The thing is, the defense just has to play well, I think, for Gettleman to survive. And there are a lot of excuses that you could build into the season. The coronavirus is certainly going to take away the offseason program. Joe Judge is a young guy. Gettleman's been around the NFL for a while. I think they're a really good partnership because Gettleman is essentially being the beta to Joe Judge's alpha. I think Judge is completely like leading the ship, and I think Gettleman is being a good soldier. He admitted his mistakes. He's trying to do analytics. He was very vulnerable in the press conference, and that's what I really love from Dave Gettleman. When he used to be brash and stuff, he came out there. He was very vulnerable. I think that the pairing's absolutely fine, and I think that Joe Judge is going to like working with Gettleman, and I don't know why you would ruin something like that.
Yeah. You're referring to the computer comments that Gettleman said, where it made you think like he was still using a typewriter. But I love Gettleman.
And the computer folk.
But as far as Gettleman goes, I'm a fan, but I completely agree with you. I think there's been a clear changing of the guard with the New York Giants in terms of the way that the upper management is handling things. I think if you look at these free agent acquisitions and the coaches they brought in, what is the common theme, Spencer? Every coach they brought in has a connection to Joe Judge, and every free agent they brought in outside of Bradbury, who was drafted by Gettleman, is connected to one of the coaches on this coaching staff hired by Joe Judge. Joe Judge brings in Patrick Graham, coached with him. Jason Garrett, no real connection there, but Garrett has familiarity with a lot of the coaches on the roster, guys like Colombo, things like that. And a lot of the other coaches have coached with Judge along the way, whether it was at Alabama, whether it was at New England, whether it was, one of his earlier stops when he first started at Mississippi, or one of the, yeah. So, I think this is a Judge team, and I think it makes sense because you and me, we both love Gettleman, but if we're being fair and honest, Gettleman, I think at most has 3 more years here, even if he does a phenomenal job. He's getting up there in age. He's, he recovered from cancer. You want to bring in guys that Joe Judge wants, because Joe Judge, the plan is to have him here for 20 years. So
but Joe Judge, I'm not sure that Joe Judge has like a GM in mind. I mean, maybe he does. But again, don't you want to see like what Joe Judge, I guess, does before you hand him all the keys? And
I'm not.
I don't know why people would get upset with Dave Gettleman, because everything is a Joe Judge decision. So Gettleman has no power. Like he's powerless. He's. I'm not saying he's meaningless, but
no, I think it's a collaborative effort. I don't think that Gettleman has no say whatsoever, and that's the way it should be. But here's the thing, Spencer. You're gonna have people. There's gonna be some people, and we knew this when it happened. First off, you're going to have some people who hate Gettleman just because of his brash attitude, right?
Absolutely.
Some people are going to be so turned off by that. You're going to have people that the second he traded Odell Beckham, probably 15% of the fan base will hate him forever. We can win 2 Super Bowls. They will call him a scumbag because he traded Odell Beckham. That's just facts. I'm not saying that's the broad portion of the fan base, but it is a portion of the fan base.
Especially young kids that idolize Beckham. And
Yeah, and you're going to have people that want to win now. They don't want to wait 2 or 3 years to build this team the right way. And in that thinking, Gettleman got rid of all the players that would have made them a better team in the present, even though he was thinking long-term thinking, clear up the cap space. We're not winning a Super Bowl with this team anyway. Let's get rid of the Snacks Harrisons. Let's get rid of the Landon Collinses of the world. We're not going to pay him $14, $15 million a year. And those people, they wanted to see a 7-win team last year because that's what it would have been. But we wouldn't have been any closer in terms of better cap situation. We would have had a worse draft pick. So at the end of the day, aren't we in a better situation that he got rid of those players? You got draft picks for him.
So the only thing I could say, honestly, that Dave Gettleman really did poorly, well, you look at Ogletree was poor. He was a poor signing. Stewart is poor. Then
Ogletree was a trade, but the mistake
Nate Solder was poor.
Yeah, Nate Solder was poor. But if we're being fair, they needed to bring in Nate Solder. They had no left tackle. He was the best left tackle on the market. Ogletree, the mistake there, yes, we needed a middle linebacker, so I can't fault him. I think he only gave up a fifth-round pick, but the mistake there was taking on that contract. Ogletree was making $12 million a year. That was a lot back then for a middle linebacker. So that was the mistake there. It was a bad trade.
Well, I think he really wanted a culture guy, and that's what Alec is, the culture guy.
Oh, that's clear. That's what he's done. Golden Tate.
The only way that the Williams thing could be salvageable, Leonard, if he has 16 really good games this year, like say Leonard gets like 10 sacks for the Giants, then you flip him like DeForest Buckner was flipped. So you're going to have to – Williams, that's the only way this is going to work. Williams is going to have to play out of his mind for one season. And then I'd love to flip him for a first-round pick.
Let me get your take on Williams. Obviously, we don't think it was a good trade. But what do you think Gettleman's line of thinking was when he made that trade?
I think it was a test to James Betcher. Like, I'm giving you a very established player now in the middle with Dalvin and Dexter. What can you do? What can you do with these players in the middle of the field? This guy's played all right. He's a top 7 pick. He has a ton of upside. And he's a good character guy, and he's right here in Jersey, and we need a jump start. And it was also Gettleman getting a little bit desperate with the season. His job security was on the line. I'm not ready to say it was an awful move. I want to see Leonard keep playing more football. But
the only reason why I think
demonstrate to me why you think it's an awful move, and also it could even be worse to have signed him. Imagine if we have the guy for 5 years, $15 million. So it could be worse to even sign him.
The reason it's a bad move, I mean, it's simple for me. He was a free agent. You could have waited till free agency. You didn't have to give up draft capital. You got him for 8 games when you were already a 2-6 football team. So to me, it screamed desperation. It screamed that you were trying to save your job. You were trying to save Pat Shermer's job, but it hurt the long-term success of the New York Giants. Even if he plays great, you could have went out there and signed him. Now, I guess the only argument you could make is they wouldn't have had the opportunity to franchise tag him, but you're paying him more than market value anyway at the franchise tag. You're paying him $16-17 million.
Yeah, but it's only for 1 year. So the only thing – so he has to play great this year, basically.
Even then, I don't think it was a good trade. But
you could get a first rounder, but then you could retrade him again.
Well, if that happens, ifs and buts and candies and nuts, but if that happens, we'll recycle through the conversation. But right now, it looks like a very bad trade.
Yeah, it does for a third rounder. That's probably the worst thing that Gettleman has done was the Leonard Williams move. But you look at this roster right now, and now I want to go to a little bit of draft discussion, okay? So you went through a whole series of mocks yesterday. I think everybody's got to go on your show. It was unbelievable how fast you were going from one mock to you were flying through it, man. I mean,
a lot of fun.
You handled maybe 8 mocks in like a series of maybe how long were you on there? 2 hours, 3 hours?
I was on there probably three and change. Yeah.
And it was fun, and you maybe paid, I guess like it's $10 a month to do the trading aspect.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of I'll ask you the question, and then I'll state my opinion, okay? Mm-hmm. What trade would you consider doing, or do you just want to stay and get Isaiah Simmons?
No, I'd definitely be open to trading down. The Chargers, to me, makes a ton of sense if they're willing to move up. I figure I get the 37 pick and 6 and probably a future second or third. Dolphins make sense. If I could only move down to 5 or 6, I'm still getting Simmons if that's the guy I covet. And if it's not, I'm still getting my tackle. So I'm still basically getting the same player at 5 or 6 that I would get at 4. So those two make the most sense to me. The Jaguars trade is enticing as well if they were willing to move up. I doubt they would be. I think that's fantasy land. But if you were able to get 9 and 20, then you fill 2 holes. You get your tackle at 9. You try to get your defensive playmaker at 20, whether it's Chason, whether it's Kenneth Murray. So there's a variety of things you could do there. I'd be open to all 3 of them if the opportunity presented itself.
I think that Oakland is a really interesting possibility because I think that Justin Herbert this year, I mean, other than Trevor Lawrence, I think that Justin Herbert's probably going to be one of the better quarterbacks you're actually going to be able to get if you're the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr hasn't done much there. I think Gruden really likes Justin Herbert. And there's a huge gap between number 4 and number 36 because even Cesar Ruiz, you saw yesterday, he's flying up mocks right now. He could go to Seattle in the late first round. So even though you're getting Simmons, all your offensive line prospects are pretty much almost gone. That is why I think that the Raiders, if you had 12 and 19, because you look at this tackle class, at 12, you're going to get a phenomenal player, Chris, because you're either going to get Wirfs, Becton, Thomas, or Wirfs, Becton, Thomas. Who's the other guy?
Jedrick Wills.
Yeah, Wills, who's actually the best one. Say that the nightmare scenario is all those guys go, you end up getting like another Odell Beckham type.
Jerry Jeudy.
Route runner. Exactly. You get Jeudy. And then at 19, Epinesa, Zach Bond, and Chason, you're going to get a edge rusher.
Or Kenneth Murray. You could go Kenneth Murray there.
Yeah, exactly, who I also love and who could also rush the passer and can hit. So I like that route just so much better than Isaiah Simmons, because maybe the Giants view Simmons so highly. I mean, Peppers is less thin. He's more thin than Simmons.
Right.
So Simmons is going to have to be that good, but I would love if we could trade with the Raiders. That would be my preferred option.
Well, in that scenario, you fill 3 holes. You know, you get hopefully your center there at 36. You get your defensive playmaker at 19 or 9 and 20, same thing. You know, you get your tackle, you get your defensive playmaker, and then you get your center hopefully at 36, or you can go with a safety there, maybe get Grant Delpit at 36, something like that. Yeah. But you fill a lot of holes, whether it's 2 on the line, 2 on the defense. Regardless, you get three holes there in the first 36 picks.
I think at 36, the offensive tackle will be very tough to sway. I mean, Ruiz could be a really good pick at 36, but I think that Josh Jones is going to be off the board by 36.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. I think that the Giants need a great pass rusher off the edge. I think that's so critical to our team next year.
Oh, of course. I mean, you know, you hope some of these guys could turn into that, you know, whether it's Lorenzo Carter, whether it's O'Shane Ximines, Kyler Fackrell. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think we need another edge rusher in the first couple of rounds if we can get it. And I would love to trade down. The other thing that you could potentially do that I didn't even simulate last night, let's say you trade down with the Chargers, you get 6 and 37 and a future third. You could then couple 36 and 37, move back up to like 20. So say you get Simmons at 6. You could then say one of these tackles is dropping. Say Andrew Thomas is there at 2021 or Wirfs, whoever. You could then take both those picks, move back up to the 20, 21, 22 area, go and get your top 4 tackle with Simmons, and then everybody's happy.
Right. Doing the mock was it was a tremendous exercise because it showed you like where we are with the picks. Third round, right? We have nothing in the third. Is that accurate?
We have pick 99. It's a comp pick. We got a comp pick for Landon Collins.
We're going from 36 to 99 though. That's a long time to wait. It sucks because the kid Darrell Taylor that we really like is going there in the third round. Yeah. And then even Curtis Weaver, like there's guys in the third round. There's wide receivers in the third round.
Pittman.
If we did a trade, how great would it be to just get a third rounder? We need that, so we're always around hovering. That's
why I'm open to trading Dalvin Tomlinson. You know, as much as I like him, he might be able to get you one of those mid-third round picks. And you already have a lot of talent on the defensive line. You've already got Leonard Williams coming back. You got Dexter Lawrence. So that's why, if for the right price, if I get a mid-third round pick for Dalvin Tomlinson, early to mid-third round pick, that kind of fills that void that you lost for Leonard Williams. And then you'd be able to take whoever it is there. You could take Troy Dye, even the middle linebacker. I like him out of Oregon. There's a lot of guys in that area that you could grab.
Yeah, and I don't know if B.J. Hill is going to possess. Would B.J. Hill, you don't think he's highly sought, right?
I think Dalvin Tomlinson's higher. Dalvin Tomlinson had a really good year last year. So, and plus it makes more sense for the Giants because he's coming up on his contract.
So it's interesting that the Giants are interviewing Andrew Thomas because maybe they're contemplating the trade back factor. And that's why, I mean, with Gettleman, he just hasn't really been that savvy with the board. You look at the Colts that are savvy. The 49ers are savvy. And odds are, I mean, if the Giants love Simmons' persona, I think that Simmons would be – I think Simmons on the field, off the field, he could be a tremendous player for the Giants. And we could stay at 4 and get him. And then we're going to have to wait till 36, hope Ruiz or Cushenberry is available at 36 then. Or Antoine Winfield, too, a very good player.
That's a good one, yeah.
All right, guys. We're back here, Rover Sports, Chris the Entertainer, right here and right back on the show. So, Chris, we were talking about pick number 36. We have Ruiz as a possibility, Winfield. Who are you lining up at 36? What kind of prospects do you really like at 36?
I mean, those two for sure. You know, if Ruiz is there, I don't know if he's going to be. Winfield, I think there's a very good chance he'll be there. I would not be upset at all with that pick. If Ruiz is there, though, I take Ruiz pretty much no matter what, depending on what I did in the first round. But let's go based off the theory that we're probably taking Simmons. If Jones is there, I take Jones. But like you said earlier, I don't think Josh Jones is going to be there out of Houston. I'd be surprised. You know, I think he's a guy with a lot of upside. People say he's not polished, but he's got all the raw tools. And there's a lot of, hungry teams for a tackle. I suppose the debate may become Austin Jackson if he's there, or maybe a guy like Lucas Yang over Ruiz at the center spot. I'm leaning center. Now, if Ruiz is gone, that's where, to me, a guy like Winfield comes into play, or a guy like –
How about Cushenberry?
Cushenberry's in that discussion as well. Center's a huge need for this team. You could argue it's one of our 2 or 3 biggest needs right now because we don't have one. You know, you can't go into the year with Spencer Pulley at center. So I think we need a center. I think it's very important. There was a lot of pressure up the middle last year with Alapio. So I'm leaning center there at 36 because I think you're going to get the best in this draft, or if not the best, the second best.
Where did John go, just curiously? Jalapeno.
I think he's still a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. He's not with the Giants.
He's not coming back.
No, he's not on the payroll right now.
Mm-hmm. So then I look at wide receiver, maybe late, like Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota is a name he's a very good guy that could maybe play slot, and he was really good in the Big Ten. You know, guys at the end like James Prochet was very popular on the mock. Talk about Gandy Golden. I love that name.
I love the name.
Gandy Golden.
Yeah, Gandy Golden, I think he's 6'4". He's going to go up and get the 50-50. Not the fastest, but he's tall. I think he ran a 4.61 out of Liberty, D3 or D2, whatever it is. Yeah, definitely an interesting prospect. He had over 1,000 yards, I think, each of the last 2 seasons. Double-digit touchdowns. I think he had a touchdown at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, which we all know the New York Giants look extensively at. Every time there's an MVP in that game, they take him.
Right.
But Golden's definitely a guy you could be looking at there in the 5th or 6th round. Also, the kid from Oregon State, Hodges, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple. The wide receiver is so deep that you could still get a solid one in the 5th round. So To me, I'm waiting until the 5th round. Unless somebody at 99 – like if Pittman's there at 99, I definitely think about taking him. I'm very high on Pittman, sure hands. Maybe Claypool, but I
like Jefferson a lot from Florida.
Jefferson, yeah, he was going 4th round or so in the mock as well. That's another guy.
Yeah, and then you look kind of late, and Tuska's a guy that you actually informed me on. Talk about Tuska, because it's a guy that you really zeroed in on, and he's kind of a sleeper.
I'm a huge Tuska guy. He had a killer combine, but everything about Tuska, when you read about him, this guy's a football player. He's the type of player that Dave Gettleman dreams about. He's a gamer. The book on him was he always got the most out of his limited athletic ability. And then he went out there during the combine, and he had a really strong combine. He had a sub-7 on the cone drill. And if you look historically, when somebody runs a sub-7, they're usually a very productive pro. It's one of the more important tests that they run at the combine. They say, I think he ran a 4.740. He's not like this unbelievable athlete, but he's just a football player, and he fits very well in that 3-4 outside linebacker role. I don't know if he's going to be there where the mock was having him. But if they get him in the 5th or 6th round, I'm going to be very happy on draft night.
That could be fantastic. There was, there was another kid that I was thinking about. Unfortunately, the name kind of escaped me. But this draft is really going to be fascinating draft, to see like where the Giants are going. Oh, the name I'm thinking of, I could really see the Giants trading back into the 1st round or trading back, because Zach Bond's a guy that I think the Giants are going to absolutely love out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, one thing I try to keep hitting home with when I'm doing these draft profile videos, or even if it was I think the Giants, more so in the later rounds, are going to look for guys on our staff have coached. I think that's been a recurring theme. You saw it with free agency. You saw the coaches he brought in, he had familiarity with. So it would only make sense. And obviously, Bielema coached at Wisconsin. You saw him there at the Pro Day. Bourne fits the
Yeah,
defense.
Arkansas, actually, the last, like, 4 years.
Yeah, but before that, he coached at Wisconsin. So I'm sure he has some ins there with the university. I'm sure, and
Yes.
he was at Bourne's pro day. Also, another guy we brought up Taylor, Tennessee, our linebackers coach from Tennessee. Gross Matos, Penn State, the D-line coach from Penn State.
Yes, exactly.
So
that's why I thought Carl Nassib was going to the Giants, because Sean Spence, I think, was just involved with Carl Nassib.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are some names you want to keep an eye out on draft night, specifically in the second round. If Matos falls there, I definitely think the Giants could take him. I don't know if he's going to. And the same could be said for Bourne. If they're going defense, I think those are two very probable players that they could take at 36.
You're right. And then late, it could be Cam Curl. It could be it could be Jawan Jennings,
Yeah, there's another linebacker from Tennessee. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's got can't remember, but he's like a 6th or 7th round talent. Bitoli, I think it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Daniel Bituli.
Bituli, yeah.
Now you say him. Yeah, he's a tackling machine, actually.
Yeah, that's a guy you want to keep an eye on, too, because obviously our inside linebackers coach is coming from Tennessee.
And the strength coach is Tennessee.
And the strength coach. So that was another guy I had my eye on, possibly as a 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, all the Tennessee guys like Callaway, is a receiver that's going to go undrafted. We're going to have ins with. So it's very, very exciting. Like, just the wide net of college coaches. And actually, Chris, out of every coach we could have possibly have gotten, it would have been crazy if you told me like 3 weeks before Judge was hired. I literally did not know anything about Joe Judge the day he was hired. I was going in blind. But my statement is now, I would take Joe Judge over McCarthy and over Matt Rule and over anybody now, just the way that he's conducted himself so far.
I don't want to sound like a homer, but, man, I really like so far what Joe Judge has done. And I'm not going into the season with unreasonable expectations. I'm not expecting playoffs, but it's just the way he commands a room. It's the structure that he's, built in the coaching staff, the direction. He has a clear plan. You got to love what he's done so far with the New York Giants, and hopefully what he does going forward. And obviously the draft is going to have a lot to do with that as well. And I can't wait to see how it plays out, man.
Yeah. And all the guys that we've burned, Jason Garrett, Freddie Kitchens, but really having Jason Garrett, the clapper, I kind of love it, because he's kind of like now the villain to the Cowboys. And, they're all teasing us for hiring Garrett, but
I don't see the hatred for Garrett in terms of an OC. The thing I always tell my subscribers, when I was making those videos, doing the coach breakdown videos, whether it was Garrett, whether it was Kitchens, whether it was Burns, the running, whoever it was, the reason that these head coaches or former head coaches are now having to be coordinators is because they were successful coordinators. Jason Garrett would not have become a head coach had he not been a very good offensive coordinator. We're not hiring him to be the head coach. We're hiring him to be something that he's been very good at in the past, and the same can be said for Kitchens. Kitchens was a very good tight ends coach at Arizona. You're not hiring these guys to be head coaches. You're hiring these guys to be what they've been good at in the past. And Pat Shermer, I think, is going to do a great job with Denver. He's a good offensive coordinator. He's not a good head coach.
He's not. And Joe Judge, I mean, the great thing about Judge is that he just goes around from position to position. And if the secondary is really playing terrible, Joe Judge is almost like OCD in every part of the operation. And Shermer didn't even care. I just don't think he cared about the defense. He didn't check in with it. And that was just a huge issue when you look at last year.
Well, Shermer was an offensive coordinator that was a head coach. He wasn't a head coach. He was a guy that they, in my honest opinion with Shermer, first off, he wasn't their first choice. He wasn't their second choice. I think they were forced on Shermer because a lot of people didn't want to take on this position because they knew they were going to have to take a 37-year-old quarterback. And they were going to have to take on a team with horrible cap situation. So they end up with Shermer, who, at least had a good background there in terms of being an offensive coordinator, good quarterback guy. And I think that they knew they were drafting a quarterback in the near future. So they said, okay, at least we'll have a guy that could teach the quarterback the ropes. And to Shermer's credit, for everything else he did bad, he did a pretty good job with Daniel Jones last year. So at least maybe we got that out of him.
I think that the Giants were, and this is the wrong way, I think, to go through life in general. They were striving for mediocrity because they were so awful with Ben McAdoo. They wanted someone to stabilize in Pat Shermer. They went the safe route. If you look actually on the hires of 2017, that could even be a whole other video we do, but it's John Gruden, it's Matt Patricia, it's all these very risky candidates all over the place. You know what I'm trying to say? I think like the market is just bad. Like
Joe Judge is a risky candidate too.
no, but I'm saying Shermer was actually like kind of one of the safer choices.
Right.
Mike Vrabel. Jury's still out, by the way, on Vrabel. He had one good year, but yeah, Joe Judge, I think it's really a home run. Like it's really swinging for the fences as a 38-year-old that can kind of grow in this role.
Yeah, I mean, if Judge is successful, you're going to get the next Mike Tomlin. You're going to get the next guy that's going to be your coach for 20 years.
And the Giants went through a really, they interviewed so many outside-the-box guys. They went from Chris Richard. They were going to interview Matt Rule, McCarthy. It was a wide-range search, and they really asked Belichick. They swallowed pride and went to Belichick and were like, what do you think? And that's what's so cool is that Belichick still loves the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants did their homework. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at these guys they brought in. They brought in Don Wink Martindale. They brought in Eric Bieniemy. They brought in very accomplished coordinators, and they were all had different strengths. Chris Richard was a guy I was really interested in to be the defensive coordinator because of his success with the secondary in the past. Not as a head coach, but they brought in a guy that was good, a strong secondary guy. They brought in Bieniemy, who was no more for an offensive mind. Don Wink Martindale's a defensive mind. Former head coaches. So they kind of had a different type of candidate. Each different guy they brought in. The Giants really did a good job with that. And
I like Patrick Graham because Graham, when you listen to him, the Stanford guys love him, say he's smart. And the guy went to Yale. So it's just intelligent dude. And I'm very curious to see what Patrick is going to do this year.
Well, that's another thing the judge said. He wants to bring in intelligence, and I expect them to try to bring in intelligence in the draft. They signed 3 former Stanford free agents. Expect them to look for a potential Stanford prospect in this year's draft.
Well, Entertainer, it was an awesome time, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, man. It was a really great time.
I had a pleasure, man. Sorry I got screwed up there for a second or two, but glad we could fix it. And
we're all good. All Gucci.
All Gucci, as Rover would like to say. But, Spencer, man, thank you for having me on, man. I had a great time. And, yeah, man, I look forward to talking.
No doubt. We'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, buddy.